everyone, thanks so much for joining me. In this video, I'll be covering another way to access some relief in the hamstrings. And this one's going to cover a forward fold from maybe a slightly different perspective. So if you have really tight hamstrings, you might have a tendency to bend your knees in your forward fold. And there's nothing inherently unsafe about that, except that it's sort of stealing from the stretch of the hamstrings. So if you bend your knees in a forward fold, you're strengthening the quadriceps and the glutes, but you're not going to get much of a stretch in the hamstrings. You might, it depends on how much you're bending the knees or not bending the knees, you might feel the stretch isolated around the knees or kind of right underneath the glutes, and you really don't want that. That would definitely be an unsafe stretch, because if we're trying to stretch a muscle, we want to get it nice and a big stretch, okay? Not something that's isolated around the joints. So if you tend to bend your knees in forward fold, then let's see if we can explore something a little bit different, okay, maybe, and just see if that feels safe to you. If not, keep doing what you're doing. If it is helpful, great, okay? So I'm just gonna come on back here. The key in any forward fold, in any safe forward fold, is we need to protect. So we're trying to create space in our joints, okay? And have them feel secure so that we can get a nice stretch in the muscles. So if we're stretching the back, okay, we need to engage the front. So when we stretch the hamstrings, we engage the quadriceps and around the base of the glutes, okay, so that we're lengthening, lifting up, creating space, and getting a great stretch. And this is true whether you're laying down, lifting a leg, seated with your legs out in front, or from a standing position. So you always want to be active from the feet all the way up. And I just want you to start out in how you might typically. Okay, so if you tend to bend your knees in forward fold, it might look something like this, where you're sending your bottom back, bending the knees, lengthening the spine. Okay, so it's sort of a chair pose with a fold. Okay, again, nothing unsafe about this unless you're feeling a stretch behind the knee, or so this would be the insertion and attachment of the hamstring, right? So around the base of the glute or behind the knee. Definitely not a safe stretch. So, but if we're trying to stretch back here, we really need to straighten the legs, which means you're going to have to back up the pose, because the tighter the hamstrings are, you're not going to be in a very deep appearing forward fold. Your experience will be deep, but if you're comparing, what your forward fold looks like, in comparison to around the room, you might feel like yours is less deep. I assure you, it's not. On the inside, you're getting a very, very deep stretch. It just may look different than your neighbors, and that's okay. So rather than this, okay, let's explore, okay, rooting across the feet evenly, drawing energy up. So if you think about maybe 4 corners of the feet, but we're just trying to distribute the weight across the inner lines, the outer lines, across the balls, across the heels, as evenly as we can. And you might feel, just depending on the mobility in your knees, that they feel like they're locking or going back. We definitely don't want that. You're really trying to center and lift those knees upward by engaging the quadriceps, okay? So it's a little bit sending the seat back, really lifting up out of the hips, lengthening, and truly your forward fold might stop right here, okay? But ask yourself, do you feel a stretch? Okay, from your seat to your heels. So do you feel a stretch at the hamstrings, at the calves? If you do, this is fabulous. This is an excellent stretch, okay? If you don't, then it just becomes a process of continued exploration, okay? But we still want to have the knees feel that they're centered, lifting up, not back. And I think that's partly what makes people want to bend the knees, because that feeling of them going back is completely unpleasant, definitely feels unsafe, is unsafe, and is blocking the flow. So we need to keep the flow open at the ankles, the knees, the hips, while still getting a really, hopefully, satisfying stretch in the hamstring. Because when we can stretch the hamstrings and create length in the spine, then we also not only get a great stretch in the back of the legs, but we get a sense of freedom coming up the body, okay? So we don't want to be in any sort of, forward fold like this. This is fine, but not much of a stretch, okay? So hopefully finding your right degree, okay, that's partnered with appropriate engagement, and you can feel that you get an effective hamstring stretch. Important for everybody. It's so easy to identify a runner, okay? So if you're a runner, biker, cyclist, sitting a lot during the day, the hamstrings just get tight, okay? So the more that you can be aware and organize, the safer you're going to feel in your forward folds or any sort of exploration in stretching the hamstrings. I want you to be safe. Do what's best for you. I hope that this was helpful and that you have a wonderful day. Namaste.